Hey guys, it's Emmanuel manning another video. Hope you guys are doing well. So want to start a little series on Harry Osborn, Green Goblin. Okay, the second Green Goblin after Norman Osborn, the first one. So want to give a little bit of an overview, highlight a few issues, a few moments, Harry Osborn, an Amazing Spider-Man, and talk a little bit about his father, right? Because his father plays a big role on him becoming the Green Goblin. So definitely we'll discuss him and give it a little bit of analysis just to make it a little different. Because I've noticed, Harry, as the Green Goblin, right? There's some websites, some others have discussed him. Okay, so try not to just copy and just repeat. All right. So Harry Osborn, who is he? So he's a character created by Stan Lee and Steve Ditko, right? He's the son of Norman Osborn, the first Green Goblin, right? Iconic Spider-Man villain, and Emily Osborn, right? Who passed away early in Harry's childhood, right? He first appeared in Amazing Spider-Man number 31, and he's a very critical supporting character, right? He's Peter Parker, aka Spider-Man's best friend, right? He's ex-boyfriend to Mary Jane, another love interest for Spider-Man, and husband to Liz Allen, and father to Norman Osborn, right? A character who still remains, right, in the Spider-Man universe. So I want to dig a little bit into Harry's childhood, right? So Emily Osborn passed away, right? I mentioned that. So this had a big impact on Norman Osborn, and then a big impact on Harry, right? Norman Osborn, we're going to learn, right, through other writers, right? He really deeply loved his wife, right? The thing that he loved the most. Okay, so when he lost her, right, that was a big moment for him. And, he became kind of more neglectful of Harry, right? Yes, he provided Harry with material support, but, he didn't really give him a lot of emotional support, right? He was so focused on his business, right? And, this is my analysis, right? My interpretation, right? Later on, he's going to turn to the Goblin Serum, like this drug, right? And this power with the Green Goblin, right? So, he didn't really open up to his son, right? He coped, his sadness, everything he felt with it for his wife, right, by himself, right? He didn't open up to Harry, right? And then kind of neglected Harry, right? Perhaps he saw Harry as like the source of his wife, passing away. It is implied, right, that Emily Osborn passed away because of giving birth to Harry. Okay, so that's another kind of angle, right, that we can kind of look at Norman Osborn and Harry. Okay, so we're going to see early on, Harry and Peter don't get off to a good start, right? But later on, they do become best friends, right? And Harry, you can kind of see him kind of forming a little social circle, right? With Mary Jane, Gwen Stacy to a certain extent, Flash Thompson, right? And Peter. Okay, so, he's not getting that support from, his father, but, you can see him kind of getting a little bit of that support from his friendships. It's interesting. One of the things I've noticed in reading some of the comics, right? Harry, Harry's well off, right? His father's a very successful businessman. You can kind of see him sometimes kind of try to use material things, right? To kind of also get in good graces with his friends like Peter, right? Once he becomes good friends with Peter, he wants to hook him up with a job, right? He's trying to help him financially, right? Peter Parker. And then, the apartment, right? Where they're living, right? Basically, he's living rent free. So you can kind of see a little bit of Harry kind of using also that materialistic aspect, right, for relationships. And, there's also a constant need for validation, for Harry, right? He wants to be validated, recognized by his father, right? Who's gotten a lot more involved in his businesses. So, I thought this was kind of a notable panel, right, where, Harry just wants, his father seems angry. He just wants to ask him, like, hey, what's going on, right? I didn't mean to get you angry. I was just wondering, like, why does he seem so angry, right? Well, don't worry. Don't wonder, right? It cost me a fortune to keep you in college. So try thinking about your studies, right? So, he doesn't even want to open up, Norman Osborn, right? And even Harry says, like, what is it I'm doing? What am I doing wrong that I'm always kind of making him angry, right? Because he's so focused on himself, right, in his business. That's how, and he copes, right? That's how he copes. I want to also just mention very briefly, not going to go over too much detail this panel, right? But you can kind of see, I just can't figure out parents. Now take my dad. We were always real pals to a few years ago when he started to change, right? I know he's been having issues with his business, etc. But you kind of see like Harry, open up to Peter a little bit, right? And, you kind of see how Peter, right, even though Peter's an orphan and like Harry's well off, right, he can see that Peter building some empathy for Harry, right? He seems well off, but he's struggling with some stuff, right? Right? Just as Peter's struggling with his own, his own financial circumstances, and then, balancing being Spider-Man, right, and Peter Parker. So, I thought it was an interesting panel from Amazing Spider-Man 39. Later on, although, Harry, right, becomes boyfriend with Mary Jane, relationship with Peter is kind of developing nicely, right? Later on, we're going to see that, Mary Jane basically dumps Harry, okay? And then it seems that Mary Jane's kind of being flirtatious with kind of Peter Parker, right? So, Harry has this very deep, distraught moment, right? Trying to forget Mary Jane. And then, his best friend, right? He is like, is this because of his best friend? Maybe she likes, right? So, this is where late Amazing Spider-Man, 90s, and then kind of into the 20s, right? We kind of see Harry, right, struggling with a drug addiction, right? Withdrawal and having a lot of physical ailments, right? So that's something that is going to be affecting him for quite a while, right, in an Amazing Spider-Man. Also wanted to bring up another notable panel. Okay, so this is Amazing Spider-Man 98, right? So I just mentioned, right, this is the big period in Amazing Spider-Man, right, where Harry's kind of struggling with his drug addiction, with his withdrawal symptoms, right? Norman Osborn, right, he's that kind of forced to see by Spider-Man, right? He tells him, look what's happening to your son, right? And I think this is a very big moment, right? Because Norman Osborn, right, he realizes, he's engaged in all these criminal endeavors, right? His business, right? And he's been neglecting his son, right? So it's kind of like a key moment in Amazing Spider-Man where Norman kind of like lets go of the Green Goblin, right? And kind of focuses on Harry, right? His son who's struggling kind of, physically. And it kind of stops, right, with this neglectful behavior towards Harry. Other notable panel that I wanted to mention is, this is from the current Gold Goblin run, right? So this is Norman Osborn, right? Harry's son, right? And Norman Osborn, right? Norman asks him, was Dad a good man, right? Talking about Harry, right? And then you could see Norman Osborn, right? Kind of reflecting. And then we can kind of see him, this figure of Harry, right? Reflecting his guilt. Tell him how weak I was. Tell him I was a screw up and a drug addict, right? So, you can kind of see a little bit, that aspect of like a Harry being addicted, right, to drugs, and then perhaps how he might have been viewed by his father, right? Because his father never really validated him, right? All right. So later on, right, Harry's struggling with his physical health, right? We're going to see, right, Norman Osborn has given up Green Goblin, right? Criminal endeavors, duties. So we're going to see that Norman Osborn is going to have like a breaking point, right? We're going to see he's in almost financial ruin, right? And then Harry is worsening in his physical condition, okay? He even has this image of like Spider-Man gloating over him, right? Which I didn't include here. So he has like a breaking point, like a very big mental break, right? And he becomes the Green Goblin again, right? Interesting, right? I always found this, this idea of somebody kind of having, like a mental breakdown, driven to madness, right? But, it just doesn't happen right? It's this culmination of events, right? And then kind of like just break Norman Osborn, right? He becomes the Green Goblin. We're going to see that he's going to kill Gwen Stacy, right? He's going to go after Spider-Man, right? And then we're going to see that Harry witnesses the death of his father, okay? So, still not sure how Harry in his bed, right? He's physically ill, but he's able to get out of bed, and he witnesses his father impaled by his own Goblin glider, right? So, Spider-Man gets out of the way, and then, right, Norman Osborn is killed by his own Goblin glider. So, Harry's hatred for Spider-Man consumes him after this, right? And he seeks to protect his father's name. Actually, he takes off the Goblin, right? The Green Goblin attire from Norman Osborn, right? And this is where we're going to see where, Harry's going to be consumed by protecting his legacy. We're going to see he's going to take on his legacy. So, you know, this is kind of interesting, right? Just looking a little bit at Harry, right? He's beset by all these traumas, right? Early on his childhood with his mom, and then his father not coping well, neglecting him, right? And then not coping well with his friend, you know, with his breakup with Mary Jane, okay? And then losing his father, right? So it's kind of interesting, right? You kind of see, just like his father, right? All these breaking points, right? That consume him, and then we're going to see he's also going to become the Green Goblin, right? So later on in Amazing Spider-Man 135, right, we can see here, right, Harry learns, right, that Peter Parker is Spider-Man, right? He knows that Spider-Man killed his father, but he doesn't know that Peter Parker is Spider-Man, right? So his full wrath is unleashed on Spider-Man, right? We can kind of see a little bit in these panels, right? This big battle between Harry and Spider-Man. So, and then Harry also target Peter Parker's loved ones, right? So Mary Jane, you know, Aunt May, Flash Thompson, right? He actually, you know, puts a bomb over their heads. Spider-Man eventually stops Harry, okay? And then Harry's gonna have like this big, you know, amnesia episode, right? He's gonna forget, what happened. Okay, so, in terms of this storyline, right, this takes place in Amazing Spider-Man 136 and 137, right? 135 is when he finds out that Peter is Spider-Man. So the only thing that I noticed, this kind of repeats a little bit of the Norman Osborn. So Harry knows who he is, Peter Parker, right? Spider-Man, right? Same as Norman Osborn, right? This rage-filled a lot of rage towards Spider-Man, right? And then trying to hurt Spider-Man through his loved ones, right? Again, very similar to Norman Osborn, right? And then Harry's going to suffer this amnesia, right? Similar to kind of Norman Osborn. So, yeah. So, you know, I think, you know, overall, Harry's been very, very well written up to this point. But you can kind of see some of the repeating points, right? With his father in terms of his legacy with the Green Goblin, right? Here's a few key issues, right? Amazing Spider-Man 31, right? The first appearance of Harry Osborn. This is, you know, that drug addiction, right? This is where kind of Harry, we kind of see glimpses of that in Amazing Spider-Man 96, right? This is the death, right, of Norman Osborn, right? Amazing Spider-Man 122. And then this is the first appearance of Harry Osborn as the Green Goblin, okay? 137, Amazing Spider-Man 137 is kind of the second part of the storyline here. Okay. All right. So I think that video is long enough, right? You know, to be continued in part 2. Part 2, I want to look a little bit at the curse of the Goblin legacy, right? We're going to see that Norman Osborn legacy, right? Others are going to try to carry it, right? Not just Harry, right? And that's going to affect Harry directly. Okay. So to be continued. Yeah. Let me know if you have any questions, you know, comments, right? And all that good stuff, like, comment, subscribe, right? Check out my other videos, okay? Yeah, so definitely want to have a conversation below, right? Let me know what you guys think. I also want to, you know, I also want to suggest other resources, right? The Green Goblin's Hideout, HarryOsborn.net, right? Websites, right? These are kind of websites that really focus a lot on the Green Goblin, right? Harry Osborn and Norman Osborn. So, you know, I did refer to them a little bit because I did want to kind of see which key issues I needed to reread for this, right? So, and they kind of pinpointed some important moments in Harry Osborn's development. So, you know, I want to make sure I give credit to them. All right, so that is it. So, you know, thank you, right? If you made it so far in this video, really appreciate you. And yeah, we'll talk to you next time.